स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतङ्गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from unreal to real, to lead us from darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Let us offer our salutations to Lord Krishna, the embodiment of bliss, who came to establish Dharma and punish the wicked. Today we are starting chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita. It's called Akshar Brahma Yoga, the yoga of imperishable Brahman. In this chapter, Lord Krishna reveals clearly who He is. Krishna is none other than Brahman himself. And in this unique incarnation, Lord Krishna has disclosed that whoever has come to me seeking me alone, he doesn't have to come back to this earth anymore. He is liberated finally. That means he will get Atyantika Mukti, the final liberation. In that state, that particular being is in everlasting peace and everlasting bliss. And Shri Krishna says he becomes one with him. The difference between the individual entity and the Supreme ceases. When the wave merges in the ocean, where is wave anymore? It is water only. Water in the form of wave has come back to its position in the ocean as water. So if somebody asks a question, where are you, wave? No answer. There is no more wave. It's all water only. Same way, all the individual beings. Really, we are all part and parcel of the same divine supreme being. But because of the veil of ignorance, we are having this differentiation, and this veil of ignorance has make us feel every moment our self-importance. So ahankar, that is the root cause of the play of Maya in this world. Ahankar. So, the last battle the individual being has to take is how to conquer this ego. And ahankar is the root of every problem, every suffering, every misery in the universe. Because of the terrible ahankar, they call in Sanskrit Durahankar. Duryodhana, how he has to meet with so many situations on account of this dangerous ego playing important role in Duryodhana's life. Until last, he was rooted in egoism. In spite of losing all the people, all the brothers, relations, huge army, everything was destroyed. Still, Duryodhana had not given up his ego. So, still he was thinking that he could fight with Bhima, etc. In order to do that, he began to hide himself under the water. He began to practice pranayama, kumbhaka pranayama, holding the breath in the water and meditating. Something he was doing. But anyway, the point is, ego is most difficult to conquer. But by grace of God, it is possible. So, our effort should be how to get the grace of God. So, there are so many ways of getting grace of God. One is through the grace of Guru, you can get the grace of God. To get the grace of Guru, you have to follow meticulously the instructions of the Guru in the spiritual path. You should not ask for concessions, because people always want some kind of rebate for everything. In for spiritual practice also they want some kind of discount. That calculating attitude must be wiped out from the mind. One can get Guru's grace only by surrendering yourself at the lotus feet of the Guru, considering Guru as none other than your own chosen deity. That concept you must have. That attitude lifts you up like anything. The more you do practice spirituality seriously, the more you enjoy the glory of the spiritual life. So, Lord Krishna says, how those who attain Him do not have to come again into this impermanent world of sorrow and pain. All beings, including even the gods. God means devatas, who have got that position on account of their meritorious deeds in this world, wherein they remained at the end of an age cycle, but the Lord exists even beyond this unmanifested being. All beings, including even the gods, come again and again into this created universe from the state of unmanifest being, wherein they remained at the end of an age cycle. But the Lord exists, Lord Krishna referring himself, even beyond this unmanifest being. That radiant, imperishable divine reality is the highest goal to be attained. Single-minded devotion of our heart is a means of attaining this highest blessed state. Even though there are auspicious and inauspicious circumstances of departing from the physical body and journeying forth, yet if one steadily abides in the Lord through firm devotion and faith, then these conditions do not matter. By always remaining in tune with the Lord through pure love, everything is made auspicious. If one can ever remain united with the Divine through deep devotion, constant remembrance, regular meditation and continuous communion, then all times, places, conditions and situations become auspicious and blessed. This is the secret of invoking God's grace and attaining Him and becoming eternally free and blissful. Arjuna here asks Lord Krishna about the meaning of the different terms referred to by Lord Krishna in the last two verses of the chapter 7. He wishes to know what is the Supreme Being, what is karma or action that he refers to, and what is the meaning that pertains to the spirit, the elements and center of all things within this human body. So, he has put most important philosophical questions to Lord Krishna. Beyond all things manifest and unmanifest, beyond these names and forms, there is the Supreme Being, Brahman. Brahman always exists. He indwells in this body as a center of all the things, including even our own individual self. We are a spiritual being residing in this body and supported by the silent witness within the Supreme Antaryamin. Prakriti or nature is the being pertaining to the elements. Worship, prayer and offering to the gods with faith and devotion constitute actions that lead to blessedness. The secret of reaching the Divine Being and thus freeing oneself forever from birth and death and the pains and sufferings of this earth life is to constantly practice unbroken remembrance of the Lord at all times, in all places, and even amidst one's daily activities. That's what we call as ajapa japa, non-stop repeating the God's name. Some of you have received the initiation mantra. That mantra should be remembering always in the mind. Keep on repeating. So, sometimes when you are totally free, you can fully concentrate. Otherwise, when you are engaging in some activities, part of the mind should be on the thinking of the mantra. That way, you can control the vagaries of the mind. Instead of mind thinking something useless, if it is engaged in thinking of God, it helps a lot. Naturally and slowly, you will be able to control the mind completely. So if one practices such steady remembrance through regular daily sadhana, then he will be rooted in his remembrance even at the time of departing from this body at death. Thus, departing, he will go beyond darkness and bondage and attain the realm of eternal blessedness. So, in order to achieve this highest goal, undoubtedly one must practice sense control. The senses must be well disciplined and gradually withdrawn from outside objects. The mind should be centered within, upon God, by uttering Om or any divine name. By such steady practice daily, the Lord is easily attained. So, to begin this chapter 8, Arjuna asks Krishna, Arjuna Uvacha, Kin tat brahma kimadhyatmam, kin karma purushottama, adibhutancha kim proktam, adidevam kimuchyate. Puts a lot of questions to Krishna. Oh Krishna, what is that Brahman? What is the individual soul called Adhyatma? What is action, karma? What is declared to be the physical region, Adibhuta? And what is the divine region, Adidaiva? So like this, Arjuna has series of questions to Lord Krishna. They are very pertinent questions, very useful for developing our spiritual faculties in our life. This 8th chapter, Akshar Brahma Yoga, has got several names. It is called as Abhyasa Yoga, Dharana Yoga, Tarka Brahma Yoga, Mahapurusha Yoga, Brahmakshara Nirdesha Yoga, and Akshar Brahma Yoga. Like these are different names for the same chapter. So these questions were asked, and again he continues the question in verse number 2. Adhiyajnaha katham kotra tehesmin madhusudana prayana kalecha katham gyayosi niyatatmabihi. Who and in what way is Adhiyajna, the entity concerned with sacrifice, here in this body, and how at the time of death are you to be known by the self-controlled one? Now Lord Krishna begins to answer his questions very clearly, one by one. So now Bhagavan Vacha, Shri Krishna said, Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavodhyatma Uchyate Bhudabhavo Bhavakaro Visargaha Karma Sangitaha. And he is now explaining Kintat Brahma. What is Brahman? Arjuna asked that question. Lord Krishna is replying, Brahman is the imperishable, the supreme, dwelling in each body. Brahman is called the individual soul. The offering which causes the origin of physical beings is called action. So Brahman is the Akshara. Akshara means the imperishable, the supreme self, self of all selves, soul of all souls, Paramatma. Paramatma and Parabrahman, one and the same. The Shruti says, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, O Gargi, it is at the command of this Akshara, the imperishable Paramatma, that heaven and earth remain held in their places. The same Supreme Brahman, existing as the ego, as the innermost self, as the Pratyagatman in every individual, to be Adhyatma. That which first shows itself as the innermost self in the body and turns out in the end to be identical with the Supreme Reality, the Brahman, is known as by the term Adhyatma. The sacrificial act which consists in offering cooked rice, cakes and the like to the devatas, and which causes the origin of all creatures, is known by the term karma. Various rituals people do. For everything they do, they have got some ritual. Pleasing the gods and getting the results out of that. They come under the classification of karma. For it forms the seed, as it were, of all beings. It is in virtue of this act that all beings, animate and inanimate, come into existence after passing through rain and other regions of life. Verse number 4. Adibhutam ksharo bhavaha purushascha adidevatam adiyajnyohamevatra dehe vara. The perishable adjunct means upadhi. The perishable upadhi is the adibhuta. And the purusha or soul is adidaiva. I alone am the adiyajna, the presiding deity of sacrifice, Vishnu, here in this body. Lord Krishna said to Arjuna, now I will explain to you what is called adibhuta in the same way that a cloud appears and then vanishes. So, this has no real existence in itself and will inevitably disappear, which obtains its form from the 5 elements, which is manifested by the combination of these elements, and has these for its basis, and the name and form of which melt into nothingness when they are dissolved. That is what is meant by adibhuta. Now, we must consider adidaiva, which partakes of what is created by matter. It is the eye of consciousness, the ruler of the province of the senses, the tree on which the bird of desire rests at the time of the death of the body. He is a reflection of the Supreme Soul, but is wrapped up in the slumber of egoism, and is alternately pleased and displeased with the dreamlike concerns of the world. By this nature, he is called the individual soul, dwelling in the house of the body. He who, while still in the body, subdues the power of sensation in the body, is adiyajna. That is myself. Krishna says, in fact, I am in every way both adidaiva and adiyajna. When gold is mixed with alloy, does it not become impure gold? When gold is mixed with alloy, does it not become impure gold? But still, the quality of the actual gold is not spoiled, nor does it really become one with the alloy. But so long as it is thus mixed, it is considered to be alloyed gold. In the same way, so long as adibhuta and the others are concealed by the garment of ignorance, they are thought to be different. When this covering is withdrawn, the boundaries of separateness removed, can it be said that having been separate, they have become one? But were they were they ever two? If some hairs were placed into a piece of crystal, the stone would appear to the eye to be split into pieces. Then if the hair is removed, can one say where the division was? Were the pieces cemented together? Was the split in the stone? It is a whole as it always was, but the presence of the hairs made it appear to be divided. These being removed, the stone appears again as before. Similarly, when egoism disappears, the original unity can be seen. In the same way, I am that adiyajna through which this unity is always present. It is that sacrifice which I had in mind when I said before that all sacrifice is but action. It is the refuge of all creatures, the storehouse of disinterested happiness. I am now revealing to you. First, in the blazing fire of the senses, burning with the fuel of dispassion, oblations of material of sense objects having been offered, with the Vajrasana posture as the ground and gestures proper to the Adhara position, an altar should be built on the lap of the body. Then plentiful oblations of the senses should be poured into the cauldron of the fire of restraint, while many hymns in the form of yoga should be recited. The mind, breathing and self-control, an abundant supply of offerings, these feed the smokeless fire of wisdom. All these are offered in the sacrifice of wisdom, and wisdom loses itself in the object of wisdom, till there remains only the pure object of wisdom. This is called Adhyagya. When Krishna, the All-Wise One, spoke thus, the intelligent Arjuna understood. Knowing this, Sri Krishna said, "Well, have you heard, O Arjuna?" Arjuna was very happy at Krishna's pleasure. Behold, only a mother can be pleased with the satisfaction of her child. Only a good teacher is able to rejoice in the attainment of the disciple. So if the disciple realizes his true identity with the divine, then the Guru is very highly pleased. Verse number 5. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yap priyadi samadbhavam yati naschatra samshaha. And whosoever, at the time of death, remembering me alone, leaves the body and goes forth, he attains my being. There is no doubt about this. Very directly Shri Krishna tells here. Very direct. If you constantly remember me, you attain me. No doubt about it. Arjuna, when illusion is burnt out, then that wisdom which consumed it is burnt up also. That of which I have just told you, which is called Adhyagya, means that those who know that to be me in the beginning, know it also at the time of death. They regard the body as but a sack, and attaining to their true nature, the self as a space enclosed in a house is still space. They sleep in the chamber of determination, in the dwelling place of self-realization, and there remains no memory of the external world. Achieving the sense of complete union, they become me, and the external sheets of the five elements fall off from them without their knowing it. When a man has no awareness of the existence of the body, although it may be still alive, how can he be distressed when it falls away from him? Therefore, at the end of his life, there can be no suffering for his self-realizing consciousness. That consciousness is molded out of unity or poured into the heart of eternity, and as though washed in the ocean of union with the Supreme, it is never corrupted. If a part be submerged in water, it is filled with water as well as immersed in it. Then, should the part be accidentally broken, would the water itself also be broken? If a serpent sheds its skin, or on account of the heat a garment is thrown off, is there any change in the limbs of the body? No. Likewise, this outward form perishes, but the self which exists without it continues. When the reason grasps this knowledge, how can it be disturbed? Therefore, those who know me at the hour of death give up their bodies and become one with me. That's the state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. They transcend the senses, including the mind. They go beyond everything. And they are established in perpetual bliss. So, they are not aware of the body and senses at all in the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. That's why when a person has raised to that level of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, since he is not aware of the body at all, the body is retained only for 21 days at the maximum, and body drops off by itself. It disintegrates by itself. The soul is no more attached to the body anymore. The soul is not attached to anything. Not attached to mind, not attached to senses, not attached to ahankar, nothing. It is one with Parabrahman, and it is experiencing immense peace and bliss. So to play in this world, condition is one must have desire. It is a desire that makes the person play. Without desire, no play. So all of us are desiring something or other, so we are playing on. This play goes on until we become desireless. That is, when all the desires are eliminated, except one single desire of realizing the divine Paramatman. In the final analysis, you reach a state of desirelessness. Desiring Paramatman leads you towards desirelessness. That means you never desire perishable things of the world. You won't desire anything that is perishable, finished. And the desire doesn't arise because you have got the fulfillment of all the desires by realizing the divine. So, when you are in perpetual happiness, what is there anything more to attain? That's how it is. Verse number 6. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tame vaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitaha. Lord Krishna says, whatever being a man thinks of at the last moment when he leaves his body, that alone does he attain, O Kaunteya, being ever absorbed in the thought thereof. So what you think at the hour of death is most important, and that determines your future birth. That determines the destiny of yourself. What you thought at the hour of death, when you totally lose consciousness, when the soul leaves the body, at that moment, what was the concentrated thought in the mind going on? That determines the destiny of the particular person. So, he who departs from the body thinks of me alone, Krishna says, he comes forth to me, he enters into my being. For this is the law. What a man looks for at the hour of his death, to that he goes. The soul is fashioned to its like. The thought of man's last moment determines his destiny after death. A man is transformed to that state which he bears in mind when casting off his body. He who at the hour of death is fixed in meditation on Krishna, on abandoning the body, the shell, body means the shell, comes to Krishna after death. But there are other destinations for those who, while quitting the body, think not of Krishna but of other things, other objects. As a man thinks in the hour of death, so he becomes after death. That's the law. Does he think of earthly objects, of father, mother, brother, friend, wife, child, wealth, power, honor, and gain, etc.? Does he think of these things? Then he comes back to this earth. So, we are making ourselves ready to enter this earth region. Does he think of heaven and heavenly happiness? Then he goes to heaven. Does he think only of the Supreme? Then to the Supreme he goes after death. This then is the law. Whatever be the bhava, state, object, being, a god, man, beast, bird, worm, tree, place, land, money, etc., whereof a man constantly thinks, doing its abhyasa in daily life, that bhava dominates his consciousness in the hour of his departure. And in that bhava is fashioned the picture of his life after death. So, that's the law Lord Krishna has explained to us. Now there is a story. There was a rich man. He was in a dying stage. He is about to leave his body. He can't speak clearly. He is uttering ka ka ka. He can't express fully because energy is not there. 98% energy is gone. Only 2% is there. And the 2% is struggling to say something. He knows what he is telling, but our listeners, they don't know. They can't make out. What do you mean ka ka ka? So, his children were anxious to know what their father wants to convey. They have to know it, how to know it. So they called a doctor. So the doctor gave an injection. So because of the injection, the father got some energy to spell out little clearly what he wants to say. He said, which is in Kannada, I will translate in English afterwards. He said, Karu ಕಸಬರಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಕಡಿಯುತ್ತಿದೆ. ಕರು ಕಸಬರಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಕಡಿಯುತ್ತಿದೆ. That is, calf is chewing the broomstick. There is English translation. In Kannada is ka ka ka, ka is karu, and another second ka is kasabarikeyannu, third ka is kadiyuttide. Karu kasabarikeyannu kadiyuttide, ka ka ka. That means calf is chewing the broomstick. This fellow is dying. He is a rich man. At the hour of death he is thinking like this. The dying rich man is worried about the destruction of a broomstick worth a few cents. He is about to leave everything and go. But still his mind is bothering about the loss of the broomstick. See, man is born single while taking birth. While leaving his mortal body, he goes alone, alone, all alone. He did not bring anything, nor can he take anything while departing the body. He should give up everything or all will go away from him. Whether crying or laughing, things have to be given up. That's the truth. There's another story about Alexander, very interesting story. Alexander became very great in the material sense, not in the spiritual sense. Great. What way? Because he attacked all the countries, looted the wealth. For a long period he was gone attacking one country after the other. How long the soldiers will be happy to do that? So they became restless. The soldiers became restless to go back to their homes. So Alexander had to return to his country even against his wish. He still wanted to continue fighting, but the soldiers are not prepared. So he had to go back. But before he could reach his country, on the way he got into a state of dying. That means he may not live. He may not reach the place. He may die any moment. All around there is huge military. Thousands of soldiers are there. Huge. But it's of no use. These soldiers, can they save the life of the Alexander? The military can only kill the living beings, but cannot bring back life from death. It is not in their power. At the hour of death, last moment, Alexander called his ministers and said, "Look, you are taking my body after death to the cremation ground. While covering the whole body with a cloth, while taking it to the cremation ground, please keep stretched my two arms without any cover, so that they are clearly seen by all the people. Do you know why am I telling like this? Listen." Alexander tells. Alexander, emperor, he conquered many countries and collected huge quantities of jewels and valuables nearby. But while going, he left with empty hands. Let the whole world come to know about it. That's the story. So, while coming into this world, we didn't bring anything. While going back also, we can't take anything. Then why should we keep on strenuously doing things to possess more and more, more and more, more and more? That possession, excessive possession, that spoils the peace of the mind. And at the time of death, you think of possessions, not of God. So naturally, you begin taking birth and proceed your material life. So like that, the philosophy is, you must, what you do as a daily practice, that helps you a lot. Every day, more and more time you are engaging in spiritual activities. The impact of those daily practices will come to your rescue at the time of death. They take you to the right region. They will take you to the abode of God. So, they make you continue your spiritual journey even after the death of this mortal frame. Even though you are supposed to be born again, you will be born with good samskaras and you will be carrying on further your spiritual sadhanas. So like that. So, antakale, what you think in the hour of death is most crucial for a person. So, we should seriously think about the Divine Lord, surrender to Him, develop love and devotion, then God Himself will pave the way clear. So He will make us pass through all the difficult situations, circumstances and so on. Let us continue next Tuesday. I will continue the class. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanurvardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Let us offer our salutations to Lord Krishna, the embodiment of bliss, who came to establish dharma and punish the wicked. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.